Heated Rivalry premiered on November 28, 2025.
Ilya Rozanov?
Shane Hollander, I wanted to introduce myself. You're an awesome player to watch.
You will not be so nice when we beat you.
And within weeks, it shattered streaming records, dominated social media with 4.6 million TikTok posts, earned a 96% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and forced the NHL to publicly acknowledge that a gay hockey romance might be creating new fans of the sport for the first time in the league's 108-year history.
See you in final.
Two rival NHL captains who have been secretly hooking up since they were 17-year-old rookies, that's the premise.
What is your room number? Well, if I come to 1410 tonight, it's 9 o'clock. And you make me curious.
I might open.
The content is explicit, the romance is real, and the setting is one of the most notoriously homophobic environments in professional sports. Against all conventional wisdom about what mainstream audiences will watch, this show has become a cultural juggernaut.
You have fun last night?
Last night?
Today we're breaking down exactly how this happened. From the book's origins on Book Talk to an Instagram DM that changed everything, to the controversies that have split the fan base, to what this success actually means for queer representation on television. Understanding why people are losing their minds over this show requires understanding the book first.
What room are you in?
I feel like we're gonna hit a lot of that sort of thing this weekend.
Carina Press published Heated Rivalry on March 25, 2019, as the second installment in author Rachel Reed's Game Changers series. The premise sounds simple enough. Shane Hollander captains the Montreal Voyageurs, while Ilya Rozanov captains the Boston Bears, and these two men are bitter rivals on the ice. Off the ice, they've been secretly sleeping together for over a decade. Their relationship begins when both are 17-year-old prospects, and what starts as a one-time thing becomes a pattern neither can break. Every time their teams meet, every All-Star game, every international tournament, they find each other, and over the years, what was supposed to be purely physical develops into something neither knows how to handle. The book digs into what it means to be closeted in professional hockey, an environment that Reed herself has called clearly homophobic. Her 2023 interviews were candid about her inspiration, with Reed saying the whole series attacks the NHL and hockey culture quite a bit. And here's where things get interesting about how this book found its audience. Rachel Reed, whose real name is Rochelle Goguen, is a Nova Scotia writer who penned the first book in the series on her iPad while putting her kids to sleep. The indie romance space was where she operated, far from traditional publishing channels. But then Book Talk happened, and everything changed. Hockey romance became one of the fastest-growing niches in the online book community after the pandemic, and Heated Rivalry rode that wave to extraordinary popularity. Today, the book holds a 4.33 rating on Goodreads, with over 105,000 ratings and more than 21,000 reviews behind that number. Roughly half of all readers gave it 5 stars. Best romance recommendation lists feature it constantly. Translation rights sold in at least 11 languages, from French and German to Thai and Brazilian Portuguese. For a genre romance novel, these numbers are exceptional, and the passionate fan base that developed around this book would eventually become the foundation for everything that followed. A beloved but niche romance novel becoming a prestige television series requires an unlikely origin story, and this one delivers. August 2023 is when Jacob Tierney discovered Heated Rivalry through a Washington Post article about popular romance novels. Tierney is an openly gay Canadian creator best known for Letterkenny and Shoresy, shows that are notably also set in hockey culture. After reading the book and seeing its potential, he did something remarkably direct and slid into Rachel Reed's Instagram DMs to pitch an adaptation. What Tierney didn't know was what Reed was going through personally, because she had received a Parkinson's disease diagnosis just 4 days earlier. Reed later told Today.com that getting that message at that time was pretty huge for her, and that it was exactly what she needed. Consider that timing for a moment. A life-altering diagnosis arrives, and you're processing what that means for your future, your writing, your family. 4 days later, a message appears from a successful showrunner saying he wants to bring your book to life. Tierney wrote a spec script that Crave picked up in January 2025, and the series received its official announcement at Bell Media's Upfront on June 5th. Principal photography began in April and wrapped by June 10th. The production moved unusually fast for television, and then came the casting decisions that would make or break the whole thing. For an adaptation like this, casting isn't just important, it's everything. Because the book's fans had spent years with these characters in their heads and held very specific ideas about who Shane and Ilya should be. The production went with unknowns. Hudson Williams, who is Asian Canadian, as Shane Hollander, and Connor Story as Ilya Rozanov. Williams was the third actor that story chemistry read with, and according to showrunner Jacob Tierney, Hudson said something revealing after that read. His words were that the other guy was good, but Connor felt like he was going to pin him down. That chemistry would become the show's defining feature. Fan reaction to the casting has been overwhelmingly positive, with reviewers calling it perfect and spot on. Critics have described the chemistry between Williams and Story as absolutely wild, bonkers, and insanely tight, with some drawing comparisons to Bogart and Bacall. IMDb reviewers noted that the actors embody the characters perfectly and convey internal monologues despite no voiceover narration. Story's Russian accent earned specific praise, and at a promotional appearance at High Tops, a gay sports bar, he joked to fans that he wanted to thank them for tweeting about their butts. Author Rachel Reed has been effusive about the casting, calling them the perfect embodiment of her characters and adding that no one's hard to look at. Their performances have even affected her writing, and she admitted to Connor's story directly that she doesn't remember what Ilya used to look like because she can't see him in her head anymore. When the author of the source material says the actors have replaced her own mental images of the characters, that tells you they've done something right. Heated Rivalry premiered on Crave in Canada and HBO Max in the United States on November 28, 2025, and the numbers that followed were staggering. Crave's most watched original series in the platform's entire history. That's what it became. Viewership increased nearly 400% in its initial 7-day window. HBO Max saw it debut as the top acquired non-animated title since the platform launched in 2019, reaching number 2 on their top 10 chart behind only It, Welcome to Derry. The show holds a 96% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes from 26 reviews, with the critics' consensus praising Tierney's lovingly adapted vision. And here's a detail that speaks to just how surprising this success was to the industry. HBO Max only finalized acquisition of the show 9 days before premiere, after executives noticed the social media buzz. Content chairman Casey Bloys admitted publicly that when he first heard about it roughly 3 weeks before air, he was surprised it was even available. This wasn't a case of a major studio betting big on a property and promoting it heavily. A Canadian production caught fire organically, and the American streaming giant scrambled to get in on it at the last minute. Episode 5 achieved something almost unheard of in television, a perfect 10 out of 10 rating on IMDb, tying only with Breaking Bad's legendary Ozymandias among TV episodes. Whether that rating holds up over time, it speaks to the intensity of the fan response in the moment. Season 2 received its renewal on December 12, 2025, before the first season finale even aired, and it will adapt The Long Game, the direct sequel novel. What's happening online around this show has been, to put it mildly, unhinged. 4.6 million posts related to Heated Rivalry now exist on TikTok. The show's subreddit has grown to approximately 200,000 members. Television Stats ranks it as the number 3 most discussed TV show on Reddit, trailing only Young Royals and Stranger Things. Twitter hashtags like Holanov, the ship name combining Hollander and Rozanov, and Heated Rivalry trend weekly after each episode drops. The reactions capture something about how deeply this show is hitting people. One viral tweet described the chemistry as so good they had to look away because they felt like they were intruding. Another person wrote that they could die a slow and painful death and wouldn't feel even half as much as they did during one particular scene. One Redditor posted that the show has changed their life and helped them approach years of personal struggles in therapy. Specific viral moments have captured fan obsession. Shane's back arch scene, the clubbing sequence in episode 4, the I'm coming to the cottage scene from episode 5, and the now iconic line where someone says, "Wow, genetics." Fan edits set to Taylor Swift's Dress and Lana Del Rey tracks have accumulated millions of views. Bell Media executive Justin Stockman noted the deliberate strategy behind this buzz, saying that at every step of the way when they released the trailer and as they had a pretty clever social media strategy around drip-feeding the fan base, the reaction kept being stronger and stronger. But here's the thing about passionate fan bases. They don't just celebrate, they also fight. No cultural phenomenon this big comes without controversy, and Heated Rivalry has generated its share of debates. The biggest erupted when Jordan Firstman, an actor from HBO's I Love LA, publicly criticized the show's sex scenes, calling them not how gay people have sex, and describing the leads as 2 straight hockey players pretending to be gay. This touched on a long-running debate in LGBTQ+ media about who should play queer characters and how authentic representation should be measured. The response from the cast came quickly. Francois Arnault, who plays Scott Hunter in the show and is openly bisexual, fired back on Instagram, asking whether there's only one way to have authentic gay sex on TV, and whether the sex that closeted hockey players have should look like the sex that sceney LA gay guys have. Connor Story addressed the criticism more diplomatically, saying he feels honored to bring someone to life that so many people feel seen, understood, and represented by, and that he thinks that transcends whoever he's sleeping with in his real life. First Man eventually walked back his comments after receiving what he described as thousands of messages, posting that he loves Heated Rivalry and that ultimately he's a faggot who can't shut up. A secondary controversy involved the celebrity gossip account Doucement, whose podcast criticized the show's acting and speculated about Hudson Williams' personal life. Williams responded publicly that he'd grown quite unfond of Doucement. Arnaud also criticized the account for posting unauthorized recordings. Some fans debated whether Episode 3's focus on secondary characters Scott Hunter and Kip Grady was the right choice given the limited 6-episode run, since that episode adapted material from Book 1 Game Changer rather than focusing on the main couple. And the perennial question that surfaces whenever this book comes up resurfaced again, whether Rachel Reed, a woman married to a man, should write gay male romance at all. That debate has existed in romance circles for years, and the show's success brought it back. Showrunner Jacob Tierney, who is himself gay, defended Reed directly, saying that women are allowed to write about men, they're allowed to write about gay men, and the question should be how they're writing about us, whether it's with empathy and allyship. Understanding what distinguishes Heated Rivalry from other queer television helps explain why the reaction has been so intense. Previous mainstream LGBTQ+ shows like Heartstopper and Red, White, and Royal Blue achieved success, but they were largely sanitized for broad audiences. Sweet, romantic, and safe. Heated Rivalry operates differently. The Hollywood Reporter described it as the most balls-to-the-wall erotic programming to hit screens since Skinamax, featuring plenty of full nudity, extended sex scenes, and depictions of oral and penetrative intercourse. Roger Ebert's website called it the sexiest and most significant queer show of the year, specifically noting that previous queer shows were packaged into perfectly quaint and safe representations of queer sexuality, while Heated Rivalry refuses to sanitize. Out.com declared it the must-see TV event every single Friday for LGBTQ+ audiences. Tierney has been emphatic about why the sexual content matters and isn't gratuitous, saying the thing that is so fundamentally different in Heated Rivalry is sex, that sex is character development, not just a random sex scene in every episode, and that the characters learn about each other and themselves through this. That's a key point. In the book and the show, the physical relationship is where Shane and Ilya's emotional walls come down, where they're most vulnerable with each other, where they can't hide behind rivalry or trash talk. Strip away the sex scenes and you lose the core of how these characters actually connect. GLAAD senior director Megan Townsend provided context for why this is resonating, noting that more than half of LGBTQ Americans and 3 in 10 non-LGBTQ people, about 84 million Americans combined, say they're more likely to watch a TV show if at least one of the characters is LGBTQ. HuffPost went further, calling it one of the most impactful queer TV shows ever and noting its Canadian origins at a time when the Trump administration's anti-DEI push and open hostility to the LGBTQ+ community makes American LGBTQ+ content more precarious. The timing matters. A show like this coming from Canada, succeeding on this scale at this particular political moment, feels significant to a lot of viewers. One of the most fascinating aspects of this whole phenomenon is how the real hockey world has responded. The show uses a fictional Major League Hockey league rather than the real NHL to avoid licensing issues, with the teams becoming the Montreal Metros, Boston Raiders, and New York Admirals. No real NHL logos appear, no actual team names, but the NHL itself has been paying attention. An NHL spokesperson told The Hollywood Reporter something remarkable, that there are so many ways to get hooked on hockey, and in the NHL's 108-year history, this might be the most unique driver for creating new fans. The statement ended with "See you all at the rink." Read that again. The NHL, a league that according to Yahoo does not currently have an active out player, is publicly acknowledging that a gay romance show might be bringing people to hockey. The real-world impact goes beyond statements. On December 10, 2025, the Montreal Canadiens played the show's trailer on their Jumbotron during Pride Night at the Bell Centre. Fans watched with astonishment as, in their words, boys kissing appeared on the Jumbotron during an NHL game. The PWHL's New York Sirens added All the Things She Said, the TATU song featured in the show, to their warm-up playlist. Former NHL player Sean Avery provided perhaps the most honest assessment when he told Rolling Stone that it's the worst hockey show ever made, but the most incredible gay hockey show ever made. Sports writer Bridget Wentworth created a Heated Rivalry mailbag specifically to answer hockey questions from new fans, noting the show has people all over the world asking whether they should care about the NHL. This crossover between romance readers becoming hockey fans and hockey culture confronting queer representation is something genuinely new. When a show catches fire like this, celebrities start weighing in, and Heated Rivalry has attracted some notable fans. Pedro Pascal has been publicly standing the show on social media, with fans documenting what they describe as his sweet and hilarious reactions. The Hollywood Reporter made the show their Christmas week cover story, with the headline reading "Down to Puck, Why women are going wild for heated rivalry. For Rachel Reed, watching all of this unfold has been surreal. Her words were that everything she didn't think was possible is happening, and that she thinks it's definitely starting a conversation. The success has produced tangible effects on her career. Her books have completely sold out on Amazon. Multiple Game Changers titles have hit the New York Times bestseller list for the first time, and this included Reed's first ever appearance on that list, 6 years after Heated Rivalry was originally published. Consider that journey. An indie author writing on her iPad, a book that found its audience through Book Talk, a random DM from a showrunner, and now New York Times bestseller status along with a hit television show. The success of Heated Rivalry tells us several things. First, it confirms something the romance community has known for years. A massive audience for this content exists that traditional Hollywood has ignored. Give people high-quality adaptations of beloved books, faithful to the source material, unafraid of the explicit content that made the books popular, and they will show up. Second, it demonstrates that explicitly queer content can achieve mainstream commercial success. Not sanitized content, not content that carefully avoids anything that might make straight audiences uncomfortable, but actual, uncompromising queer romance. Third, it shows the power of passionate fan bases in the streaming era. The organic social media response to this show, the 4.6 million TikTok posts, the Reddit discussions, the Twitter trending, all of that drove real viewership. HBO Max didn't heavily promote this show before acquiring it 9 days before premiere. The fans did the marketing. Rachel Reed put it simply when talking to McLean, saying she hopes it's going to change the way romance gets filmed because she doesn't think anybody thought you could actually take a high-heat romance and really film it. Season 1 concludes on December 26, 2025. Season 2 will adapt The Long Game, targeting fall 2026, with both Hudson Williams and Connor Story confirmed to return. International distribution continues expanding, with the UK premiere on Sky and NOA set for January 10, 2026. We started with a question about why everyone is losing their minds over Heated Rivalry. The answer turns out to be complicated. A book that found its audience through the algorithmic chaos of Book Talk, an Instagram DM that arrived at exactly the right moment. Two unknown actors whose chemistry critics are comparing to Golden Age Hollywood. A Canadian production that major American platforms scrambled to acquire at the last minute. But mostly it's about representation that doesn't apologize for itself. For years, queer audiences heard that mainstream success requires compromise, that explicit content would alienate viewers, that gay romance was a niche interest rather than a broad commercial proposition. Heated Rivalry has proven all of that wrong. A show about two men falling in love in an environment that tells them they can't has somehow improbably become one of the biggest television events of the year. The industry is watching, and the question now is whether they'll learn the right lessons from it. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, consider subscribing. Let me know in the comments if you've watched the show and if you're one of the people who've now become a hockey fan because of it.